afternoon, Nigerians. Welcome to Editors Forum. My name is Benwari Mazaka. As we all know, Editors Forum is a program where we get to bring in public affairs analysts, editors, or journalists come together and have a diverse discussions on key issues going on in the country. As I said earlier, my name is Benwari Mazaka, and you're welcome to the program. So quickly, before I introduce the guest I have on the studio and the conversation starts rolling, we'll just quickly take a look at this report. And when we're back, the conversation begins. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Glad to have you back. So I have with me in the studio, I have Mr. Inuma Shomale, who is the publisher of frontpage.com.ng and also the assistant general secretary of GPAN. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, man.
And I have Mr. Sunday Dibashi, who is the editor of National Daily Newspaper. Thank you so much for being here at this time. All right. We're starting on a sad note on the fact that the Chief of Army Staff, talking about Lieutenant General Tawi Lagbaja, we lost him within the week, and a whole lot of condolences and all have been coming in, though there's been a little controversy around, I mean, before then, we've had rumors about his absence for a while and the coming in of the acting chief of army staff. But before we even go there, let's talk about the chief of army staff we lost and looking at the position he occupied in the security sector of Nigeria. What would you say were his significant contributions as regards to securing the country?
Yeah, thanks, Nan. On a sad note, regrettably, may the soul of Lieutenant General Tauri Lagbaja rest in perfect peace. So even before he became the chief of army staff, you could hear of him, his impact, at the theater command that's Operation Lafia Adole. So the terrorists felt his patriotic impact. He was very instrumental to driving them further into hinterlands after the the Lieutenant General Buratai left to become chief of army staff, and I think he handed over to him in that theater of command. So the issue there is that when you look at the newspapers, the social media, you hardly find anywhere anyone has not spoken well of late Lieutenant General Tauri Lagbaja. For the first time, you saw people across all divide, the religion and the ethnic divide, having to eulogize his memory. You saw pictures of generals, succumbing to the emotions, and having to shed tears. So I don't think we've had that in recent times, where everyone agreed, to that kind of leadership qualities that late Lieutenant General Tauri Lagbaja exemplified and displayed.
Okay.
May his soul rest in perfect peace once again.
Amen. Yes, that sounds necessary.
Yeah, really unfortunate. And, since his assumption of office, I think we've observed relative attitudinal change in terms of the drive to get rid of the terrorists in the north and to deal with the bandits across the country. Like most incidents or cases where we could have in the past, issues of soldiers, troops being ambushed, the military bases at the slightest, attack, being overrun and all that. So they were brought to the minimum, and we also see the enthusiasm in the soldiers saying, yes, we are going to look for the bandits wherever they are in the bush. Like about 2 weeks before he's dead, you can see what happened in Zamfara, where soldiers were practically moving and civilians, escorting them as they were going into the forest. And they were promising them, we are going to bring them. We are going to look for them. So you saw this kind of stimulation injected into the Nigerian army to say, let us secure this country. And I think he was patriotic and he was dedicated.
Okay. So he was patriotic and he was dedicated, as you said. Shortly after the announcement of his death, we also now got information from the defense headquarters confirming the emergence of a new terrorist group. I think the name is Lukarawas, if I got it correctly, in the north western part of the country, and I think most especially KB and Sokoto, and they were also they made mention of the fact that the terror group originated from the Republic of Niger, that after the recent coup which disrupted military cooperation between Nigeria and Niger. I mean, as it is right now, we are still trying to, find a way of handling the ones we have, and then now we have more, coming in. But again, looking at the gap, which we can't really call it a gap, because shortly before the death of the chief of army staff, we had the president bring in acting, chief of army staff, which I think is the first of its kind. I don't know if we've ever had an acting chief of army staff before. Well, what do we make of this? How do we see all of this?
Yeah, there's always going to be first of a kind of anything. All we can pray for is that we have first of good things. From my late Lieutenant General Tari Lagbaja didn't just die, he was sick. He was a bit kind of bedridden, and no one could actually predict his demise. So that necessitated the selection of appointment of an acting chief of army staff to act and act in acting capacity before the return of the substantive chief of army staff. But then death doesn't give notice or something of sort. So it happened the way it happened, and that's what necessitated Nigeria having the first thereabout acting chief of army staff. So, and then you also saw that as much as the Lukarawas, or whatever they call themselves now, we've spoken of this on this platform time without number, and don't know, things like this in an environment where you have 22 million or thereabouts of school children, milling around in the guise of beggars, or what do you call them? What do we call them now? Amajiris and all that, or Agberos. See, they come in different guises. They are out there. If you were a terrorist, any terrorist group leader, you didn't need to look far to recruit. So they are right there for taking. So that is for education. When you also look in the direction of economy, when you look at most crime reports we've had recently, in the time past as well, people kill for just 10,000 naira. You see, even in the time of a crime fighting program, you see, while they were being interrogated, you see someone promise 5,000 naira to bring limbs, to bring organs, human organs. See, terrorism cannot disappear. insecurity will live with us as long as we have or so much humongous out of school number of out of school children, and as long as we have people struggling to feed their families. The only solution we have, the government has, is to provide, make food to be nothing people will have to strive to get. Then every other thing you can take control, you can take charge. How do you secure the country when people are ready to sabotage? So, but when people are hungry, when they are well fed, you will discover that no one will even crave to die, because a life that gives no meaning does not worth living. So make life meaningful so that no one in the first place will want to die. So Lucarawas, those are no accidents. They are just like effects of mismanagement and bad governance bedeviling Nigeria.
But again, don't you think that, these people crossed a border to come in? Doesn't this also show that, there's a compromise somewhere?
Don't they cross border from Canada to United States?
Looking at how easy these people, cross.
How easy! But we spoke of economic sabotage that disgruntled citizens are ready to always offer enemies. Now, not just about the citizens, ordinary citizens. Go to Idiroko border and see for yourself. Maybe we should do some special reports. Go to Seme border and see for yourself. See in broad daylight how agents of the federal government, with no care whether you are filming them or not, how they collect bribe. Broad daylight, not night. Fisayo Shoyombo of a Foundation for Investigative Journalism did a comprehensive report on the Nigerian Customs Service, on whatever. See, he actually went to Burkina Faso to unravel how human trafficking ring, how they operate. No single arrest has been made. He went into brutales, guest houses owned by very prominent senior officers of Nigerian Customs Service. Nothing has been done. But when the very dark man, the controversial blogger and human rights activist, when he did something about Bobrisky, they quickly invited everyone to the Senate, to the House of Rep. You understand? So that shows that we aren't really serious. It's not because we lack the capacity. But then, for Lucarawas not to cross into Nigeria, someone who is patriotic has to be manning the border. You understand? We have all the porous borders. Then to complicate issues, we have corrupt individuals manning them. May God help us.
Amen. All right. Let's
I think I'll move away from sentiment to an extent. Like the earlier where it started from, the appointment of the acting chief of army staff.
Yes.
It questions the level of transparency in the Nigerian government. It questions accountability in governance. All right. Before then, there was an earlier report about the death of the chief of army staff. The defense headquarters denied it. Okay, we get the report daily on that basis. The defense headquarters denied it, and a few days later, they appointed an acting chief of army staff, which you are now saying is unprecedented. All right. Then about 1 or 2 weeks later, they announced the death. So let's give that to the government. The mutual suspicion and distrust of the Nigerian government is being heightened in that aspect. There's no sentiment about that. Now, talk about the new terrorist group. Now, during the period that the chief of army staff fell, now we now heard of a new group coming in. Why did they wait for that time? Now, the previous administration, we had incidents or cases, I report on daily basis, cases of sabotage in the military, cases of trickery within the military. You get it? Now, we also have report from the locals who also review how even the military will stand and the bad boys will be killing in communities. Labaja issued a warning in Benue State, and he said if this killing in Benue continues, that he himself will join the war. He was going to lead the army and go after the killers in Benue. He said so. Now, few months or few weeks, they said he's dead. You remember the chief of army staff that died in aircraft. There was a reporter, he said he cannot stand on this. Few months, they say he died in an aircraft. This is the second chief of army staff. Nigeria is losing while in service, in active service. Now, let's leave that. Now, the new terrorist group. Now, the late chief of army staff, he was closing in. He was reducing the ungoverned space within the Nigerian territory before he died. Now that he left, there's that vacuum. The last administration compromised security to a large extent that gave space to non-state actors to operate with impunity. And we had thought that this present administration was turning the game, around. Now, unfortunately, the chief of army staff died. I hope that the intelligence mechanism with which the military discovered that, they will strengthen it and also use that to contain the spread of that gang. If that is not done, then Nigeria will be in for a bigger trouble, because that is external aggression by all military, jargons, that a group is coming from another country and penetrating your border to terrorize your country. It's a failure of governance. It's a failure of leadership. In an Obasanjo administration, you can't get this done.
But I mean, before now, we've heard, people say that these terrorists are coming from Chad, coming from neighboring countries like Niger.
Yeah, they've always been saying so. They've always been saying so. They've always been saying so. Now, there's one thing. Look at the sentiments that erupted when Coas needed to take action in Niger Republic, when they said they were going to deploy forces. There were sentiments from the north. Some were claiming, they have relations in Niger, while they were somewhere like Kano and all, within the neighboring states. Yeah. And they are saying, you can't go and kill our relations. And that restrained the government. Even though the government, it was a rash action, because he needed to also look at your diplomatic terms before you make decisions. We were here, Babangida was head of state. You saw the role that Nigeria played in ECOMOG, in Liberia, Sierra Leone, name them. Does Nigeria have the capacity to do that today? Now it is the neighboring countries that are now putting Nigeria under edge. I think you will need to reorientate our leadership. National leadership, start from there. Then we can now talk of the mechanism for governance and how we can secure the country.
Okay.
Yes. Let me really.
Sorry. So you could just probably mesh that. I was also coming to say, shouldn't we get to a point where the leaders of these countries probably come together, to have a conversations on how to bring this whole security thing to an end? Yes.
Security isn't kind of rocket science to deal with. That's what we are saying here. Okay. As long as your citizens are hungry, as long as your citizens are homeless, as long as
terrorism not being
I think I'm going somewhere here. Okay. As long as bulk of citizens are deprived of basic necessities, what are you going to secure? Who is going to secure them? When you have infrastructures, put so much cameras everywhere, the citizens are the critical stakeholders that are going to secure those facilities, whether the land border, whether the whatever softwares, they can compromise them. What I'm saying is this. And to think is the military whether chief of the army staff or chief of naval staff or air staff, that would nip those things in the bud, then we are living in some fool's paradise here. Look, until it gets to this point, the job of the police, the job of the immigration, the job of the customs have failed. They failed in all their responsibilities to secure the country. Look, you go from Oba Akran and to Ikeja and you see police extorting in broad daylight. What if it were to be Lukarawas? Why having to overburden the military in the first place? If the Nigerian Immigration Service hadn't been compromised, if the Nigerian Customs Service had checked the luggage, if the Nigerian police has done the due diligence, running the right patrol and not extortion, why should the military be so overburdened that we now have to allow petty miscreants to grow and develop into a terrorist group? Then you want to now go about deploying fighter jets and all that and the RPGs. No. Look, if Nigeria is prosperous enough, we can stop people from coming and going, but they will come to prosper, and we will also leverage their human capacity, their intellects, and to develop the country. Whoever said Nigeria is going to grow by the capacity of human capacity of Nigerians alone, it can't be right. Look at the United States. You have Chinese, Arab, whatever, Africans coming from all diverse backgrounds to make the place great. They only take exception to your shenanigans when you begin to constitute nuisance to their society. You can live in the United States for 50 years without having issues when you live your normal life. So that's what we are saying. We need visitors, we need foreigners, but we need responsible foreigners. And they will come as responsible when we are patriotic enough to man our borders, to be non-corrupt. And they will now say, look, going there, they won't take shit. You can't take bomb cross the border because no one will take bribe. These are issues we are talking about. So we do not have to rely on the chief of army staff or naval or air staff to nip in the bud. The failure and why they failed of Nigerian Customs Service, of Nigerian Immigration Service, of the Nigerian Police Force, why they failed need a serious inquest. And that is what we should be talking about.
All right.
Yeah. I do not really subscribe to this theory of hunger. Okay. All right? Because we are talking of external aggression. And when I spoke earlier, I talked about re-engineering governance. I talked about leadership. And it boils down to all. If there is basic issue of corruption, the leadership should deal with it decisively. You understand? Because here we operate a system that tends to reward crime. If you have a system that does not reward crime, we won't be talking about all these things. Why should you have somebody who is minding a border and people are passing through that border to come and cause mayhem in your own country and nobody is being questioned? And quite often, when people who also have investigation or maybe have full knowledge of those things, when they made it known, the authorities will be the first to say, no, it's a lie. It's not true. Even if they still come back to it again. So it's about this issue of leadership. If you have leadership that is dedicated, that is patriotic, you get it. That is, say, I'm committed to the service of this country, not about greed, not about desperation for power, not about you go there to acquire wealth. It's not just about the Mr. President. From the president to the lawmaker, to those in the civil service. See, there's a need for total overhaul. There's decadence of leadership and everything's on the decline.
All right. Thank you so much.